In front of the camera or not, you can always count on seeing her on the sidelines. The next guest on the Women Behind the Whistle podcast is former news personality Miss Bree Tankersley. Welcome to South Georgia.
Thank you so much.
How's it been in Ben Hill County?
It's been great so far. It really has. We have been I feel like so fortunate. We've lived a few places before. We haven't had to move a lot, thank goodness, but the community, the people make the community, and I just feel like they have just been very welcoming. It's been unreal. Honestly, it's probably been one of the best welcomes that we've had, if I'm being honest. Just presents at the door, and when we first got to town for a couple of weeks, I don't think we paid for a meal when we went out. I mean, it was really nice.
So you felt the South Georgia charm.
We have.
I'm glad.
Yes, I know. So we're really enjoying it so far.
How's it been at school, teaching? What have the students been like?
They've been great. Yeah, they have. I'm kind of doing a similar thing that I did before, in the past. It's a marketing pathway with a broadcast focus too, so I can, bring a little bit of my field experience that I had from when I worked in television, to the students. And I think that's amazing. The whole, CTAE programs that we have now in Georgia and other surrounding states, I didn't have anything like that in high school. I knew I kind of had an interest, in doing the news, but never had those opportunities. So I think it's amazing what students get, the experience they gain now in high school, that really helps them for later on in life. So it's been good.
Now, how did you all get to South Georgia? It seemed like one Friday I was at Fitzgerald and they were like, yeah, Coach Pruitt might leave. Then that Monday it's like he's gone. And I'm just like,
yes.
Has this been in the works for a long time? Maybe we just didn't know about it?
Yes, no, definitely not in our plans. I mean, it was pretty sudden. It was kind of a last minute move there, and they asked Wesley to come down. It was all just very, very quickly. That it happened. So yeah, it was fast, and he hasn't had a lot of time. I think he started maybe May, or which is late, for a coach, because normally when you take a new job, you try to get there January, February. So he had a really quick turnaround to try to get to know the players, to put a staff together, because a lot of the coaches had gone or left, and we just had a lot to do in a short amount of time. And then there's the aspect of our daughter who is in high school still, and then finding a home. So it just felt like we were just kind of in autopilot mode there for a few months, and it took him a little while, but the Lord just worked it all out and brought the right people to him for his staff, and I feel like he has a really good staff. He feels good about it, and it's all working out. So it was not necessarily our plan, but
God's plan.
It was his plan. Yeah, it was.
How were you able to convince your daughter to move in high school?
Well, it wasn't easy at first. We're a coach's family, and so we've had to move a few times. We were very fortunate to stay in one place and get both of our boys through a high school together. We didn't have to move while they were in high school, so they got to play together and play for their dad and together. So that was very fortunate. But yeah, I think Briley kind of always knew in the back of her mind, like, this is great here in Stevens County, but this is probably not forever. And we kind of prepared her for that this would probably not be our forever home. So at first she was a little overwhelmed. She was, but she's a strong girl. I feel like coaches' kids have to be a little bit resilient, and she did great. It was a little hard at first, and there was a few things that we're constantly learning. I've been doing this for 20 years now, but we're always learning, different things, and we kind of forgot about the teenage aspect of that, and it just kind of slipped up on us. And well, she just in one day started getting all these friend requests, and then questions like, when's your dad going to be here? What kind of offense does he run? All these different.
They were
questions.
asking her what kind of offense coach is going to run. Okay,
right,
they want to know it all.
They did. So I had to kind of step back, and I thought, I wasn't prepared for that, because we monitor her social media, but it just came really quick, and I think it was kind of flattering at first that all these people were reaching out, but then she's like, how do I deal with this? How do I answer this? So we had to just caution her, and just keep it very vague and just be friendly. And I think that, like I said, it was it was overwhelming, but it was also kind of flattering that people were reaching out, wanting to get to know who she was. And she was a cheerleader, so she was able to make some connections with other cheerleaders and the coach, so that was good.
As a parent, what tips and tricks have you learned about moving with children? Because I've moved just as far as going to college and stuff, but never in school.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's so tough. And, I guess we are a family of faith, and I have to bring it back to that because it is what really has gotten us through. We taught them at a very early age, that this is kind of a ministry that, yes, we love to win ball games, but it's about more than that to us. And since they were little, we just taught them, it's all about loving others and serving God, and letting this be our platform to be our ministry. And I mean, as soon as the boys were able, they would go to the field when they were little, and I remember they helped with water for a while, and then they graduated to ball boy. That was a big deal, because you have to talk to the officials. And, so they were always around it. And then, Briley was always at the field since she was born, just there. So I think, just seeing all that, they kind of understood. And yeah, just a lot of prayer, knowing that, and it's been neat now because, they're older, and I've done this long enough that you can look back and just seeing, how every time the Lord took care of us, and He was so faithful to bring new friends into our lives, and, special teachers, and we've made so many wonderful connections. And, Wesley's been very fortunate. He's always left on his own will, so to speak, and we have just made some great relationships all throughout, Georgia, and we feel like we have a lot of, family. You get close with people and with players. They've got brothers all over, the place that we stay in contact with them. We get, we hear from them in the holidays, and they get to see all that, and I think we try to keep them connected with everybody. So I think just seeing all that that helps. But yes, it's definitely hard. I mean, there's definitely through some middle school years, we've had to make a move one time with my oldest, and then high school, this was a huge move for Briley. But it really helps them out to kind of grow their faith, being able to see that they can do hard things, and God's going to get us all through it.
I was going to ask, how does it strengthen your faith to go from place to place and then see how you've left an impact?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And like I said, when I first got started in all this, it was hard because I had 3 little kids, and I'm sure you've been around enough coaches' wives, so and you see a lot through sports. And
y'all do it. Y'all are super women, literally.
Yes, it's hard, juggling and all. And I think that when they were little, I thought, gosh, how can I get involved? It was all I could do to get to the game by kickoff, But I tried to just continue to try to get involved. And I think probably when I did got involved at the schools, that's where I was really able to make the connections, because it's hard sometimes just showing up at practice and trying to get to know the guys. But when I was able to get involved at the schools, you get to know them at a different level, And that's what it's really all about. I think you and I were texting about me possibly coming on, and I got on, I guess, to look something up on social media, and I saw a post from a previous player that has gone on. He has a family now, and he posted a picture that he's like your new favorite PE coach or something, and he's going to be a PE teacher and then coach. And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Because it just about brings tears to your eyes, because you just see these, what were young men at one time now growing into these leaders in their communities and doing great things, and getting to see them. Some we got to watch a former player we're really close to at Stevens play at Tulane this week on TV. And so just getting to see those and seeing them live their dream through the platform of football, it is very neat, and it has strengthened all of our faith, and it's been so good for our kids to see. My oldest wants to be a coach now himself, so that's been really I think that's when it's been just a really, I guess, full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, because he got to actually come to Fitzgerald this summer. He plays in college, but he had a few months there that he could come home, and he helped his dad. And he helped Wesley a lot because there was a lot to do. I told you, short turnaround. So he was in there organized, and I thought, well, okay, this will either convince him that this is what he wants to do, or he's going to say, yeah, this is too much, not this level. But he loved it, and he made in such a short amount of time, he made a lot of bonds with the team, and they ask about him all the time. They called him Coach T. We couldn't have 2 Coach Tanks in the house, no. So he was Coach T, and they'll ask about him all the time and how he's doing, and they've even FaceTimed him a few times, after ball games, and that's been so neat to see. He was just here a few months with them and already made those bonds. It's really neat.
What was it like to see your sons play under their dad? All 3 of them on Friday nights, all on the field together?
Yes. Well, the nerves, I've always been a little nervous on game, but I'm going to tell you, the nerves really do escalate when you've got both boys and your husband out there, and then my daughter cheering too. But it was amazing. We were so blessed looking back at that. We got to have both boys. I think one game really stands out where one son, my oldest, calls a fumble, and then my youngest swooped in and recovered it, and that was for a region championship. I mean, it was really like something you see out of the movies, and so we know that's not always the case, but that was really just a neat experience to be able to see them be region champs like that, and just those memories, you'll carry them forever. It's just really special.
What was the dynamic like at home? Is it like dad, sons, like were teammates, and then like coach? Like how much talk was football when they were all three on one team?
Yeah, there was a lot, and then of course, they were so exhausted when we got home, we tried to just keep it light, but he was definitely, their coach and was probably harder on them than anyone. Because you have to be, right? Like if they're gonna, he made them earn every second of that playing time. And, they were both, thank goodness, they were both very good players, but he was extremely hard on them at times. But, he was a great coach. And it was neat for me to see him in that role from that perspective, too. And I didn't have to get on to him too much. He was really a good coach, but they ended up really respecting their dad, too, and through all that. And just, like I said, some of the moment, we were just really fortunate, too, to have some amazing experiences, like that with being region champs together and being able to, like I said, those pictures, those videos and memories, I'll cherish them forever.
Now your daughter's on the cheerleading squad at Fitzgerald. To see her in the purple with coach. When you first game of the season, Irwin County, you see them on the field. What emotions came up that game?
Yeah, that was neat. That was a big game. And, we had it right out the gate, because from the day we moved there, it was just, we need to beat Irwin. We heard that.
I was going to say, how often did you hear that?
I heard it a lot. We knew it was important. And it was right out the gate, like I said, the very first game. So there's definitely, and, being new to the area, I'm not familiar with all the teams like I was, when we were where we were at previously. We kind of, was a little bit acclimated to the different teams, but here it's all been brand new. So I didn't know what to expect, exactly. So that was a nice win, and it was good to get that over with. Yes, it was. But then we obviously have a long season to go and a lot more goals.
After that one, I imagine.
It was, yeah.
What was the reaction from the community after that one?
Yeah, well, we got a lot of phone calls, and a lot of really positive things. I think everybody was kind of relieved, and I think they maybe had lost the year prior to that, so there was a little payback there. I'm sure that we weren't even a part of, you know, but it was good. Everybody was really excited and hope. And it's, I think we're a little bit of a young team from just my perspective, but good. And hopefully, we can expand from that. We still have a long way to go. And so that's always a challenge because, you want to celebrate, but you don't want the boys to think, okay, we definitely have more goals there to reach.
Was there any pressure coming here, seeing that Fitzgerald's such a storied program?
Oh, there is. Yeah. We knew that. And we knew, we were so excited for the opportunity. I think Wesley felt just very thankful and just, how it all played out and worked out, even though it was last minute. Wasn't exactly ideal for a situation, but it was just, I think he feels very fortunate. I know we both do, that just to be a part of a school and a community that loves football as much as they do. Yeah.
Now, I did a little research on his career. His first year as head coach, 0-10. That year, how do you support him as a wife? How do you try to be there as a mom? You have young children. When you think back to that year.
That was a challenge, and there's a lot of memories that come to mind. I was in television, at the time, or I had kind of stepped away. I'd been in television, had the boys. We moved back, to our hometown. That was in our hometown, too, by the way. So,
wow.
Yes, that was a whole long story. Yes, he never really expected to have that job so early. He was probably one of the youngest coaches in Georgia at the time, very young, starting out. All eyes are on. I'm working at the news station, and they thought it would be a great idea. Because sports is huge, just like it is here, I'm sure, for you guys. Yes. And they thought, well, wouldn't it be so neat to have Bree as a sideline kind of reporter and helping with sports?
Oh, that was their idea.
That was
Season
their idea.
1. Yes,
and I have a really hard time saying no. And for some reason, like looking back, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? So, but I did it. I jumped right in there and helped the sports team, and so that was very interesting. Yes, there was times, and I don't know if it was that. I can't remember if it's the first season or the second season that I started. I think it was that first season that I actually did, and I'd have to go by, him after a really hard game and go and interview the winning coach. So it was a lot of emotions.
So when you're passing your husband, are you like, don't make eye contact with him?
Yes, that's what it's like. Hey, hon, sorry, And I think what was so bad is the other coaches knew too, who I was a lot of the time. So they're like, I'm so sorry, you have to interview me, and I'm like, no, it's okay, really. So that was tough, but gosh, again, just being able to see where he took that program, because it was kind of a difficult program when he first took that over, and just seeing everything that he did and the records that were broken there. That was, again, God's always with you, even in the tough seasons. But to be able to take it and look back is definitely pretty amazing to see him do that. Yeah.
Did Coach Tank ever feel like, why would she do that? Like, why would she say yes to this? Or he was just like, I'm just going to support her. Like, look at my girl go.
Yeah, he did. This is always kind of, I think he knew something that, I wanted to do. And even when we moved back, he took the job at Ridgeland. I was back in the Chattanooga area, and he he supported that. You know, that was hard. The kids were little, and I got the opportunity to come back at a CBS affiliate there, and he was so supportive. He just said, you know, we'll get my mom. You know, I have a great mother-in-law, and bless her heart, she was literally like Nana, because she came and stayed with us a lot so that I could do that. Because as you know, it's so demanding doing live television and every day of little kids and all the things that can pop up, you know, but
Yes.
she just helped. And he's always been one of my biggest cheerleaders too, which I really appreciate. You know,
Now, have you two been together since high school, college?
So no, he was in, I'm a little bit older. He loves to tell that part. So I'm a year and 10 months older than he is. And so I knew of him. I knew he was a great athlete, but, you know, I was already going into college and just kind of, you know, dating older people at the time, you know, just not even really looking. But we had friends that set us up. That's how we got together, and so it was pretty neat because I got to then follow him and watch him play in college, and you know, got to cheer him on through that too, and be through all that, you know, as well. So we've been married a while, about 23 years. And
that's a long time.
Yes, it's a long time, and
someone.
about 20 years of coaching now. Yeah.
What's the key to it all?
Well, of course, I always point it back because it is. It's just the center of our marriage is our faith, and it really is the Lord. You know, that He's what keeps us going, you know, through the hard times, through the wins, and through the losses. Just being able to keep Him first, you know, you have to strive to do that. And, you know, it has been what has held us together. But you know, coaching, football's a good metaphor for life because there are, you know, a lot of wins and losses in life. And we've definitely had a lot of challenges along the way. But you know, I think just realizing too that maybe not right at first when we first got married, because it was hard trying to figure it all out. And this, you know, the head coach is you know, I was very young and immature at the time too, probably. And so we've had to learn a lot. We've grown up together, but I think realizing that we are a team, just, you know, us and our family is a team. And then, you know, just like I said, me trying to get involved and realizing that it's our ministry. It's not just him. You know, he's the coach, but it affects all of our lives when we move. And I really feel like we're our own little team, you know, together as a family.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. How are you able to keep your individuality in all of this?
Yeah, you know, it is. I'm Miss Tank, you know, or Mama Tank, which she makes me sound like a 85-year-old girl, but
I like it.
I
it
love
sounds
it.
like you mean business.
Yeah, I do. I love it. I get called that a lot. But, you know, I think you do. And me, you know, having my own career, I also do real estate now. So, I mean, I juggle a lot.
If you need a home in the area.
That's right, yes. So I have a lot of hats that I do wear. And I think that's probably, if anything, is the challenge, just having that balance, you know, finding time to do it all, to be a daughter, mother, friend, coach. You know, it can get so overwhelming. And so I think for me, because I'm a yes person too, that's probably the greatest challenge is, you know, I do wear a lot of hats. So I do keep my individuality. It's just in a lot of areas, so to speak, you know, but just trying to find that balance. And that's a struggle, but I'm working on it, yeah, even now.
If our viewers can't tell or hear or see, she's a natural. What made you get into TV?
You know, I always loved it. We were from a small community. In fact, Fitzgerald has a lot of similarities, even though it's South Georgia. We were from North Georgia in Ella, so my husband has a farm there. He grew up on a farm. It's beautiful there, very rural area, you know. But I always had a desire I did like a local beauty pageant back in the day, and one of the things that we had to do was we had to go to the Capitol. And I remember meeting as a big TV personality in the area. I don't know if you would know her now, but it was Monica Kaufman, Monica Pearson now. And I was watching her work there at the Capitol, and I just thought, man, that is so neat. Like, I was watching her, and it wasn't just that she was on TV, but it was the way she was interacting with other people and telling those stories. And I was just watching her, and so I introduced myself, and I think that kind of, you know, God just kind of put that in my heart that I wanted to do that. But I was always a little bit embarrassed to tell people that because, you know, from a small town, I'm like, what am I going to do that? Which was really neat because when we fast forward, when we moved back to our, you know, hometown many years later, we actually had a television station. So we broadcast over 6 counties in the area. So I was actually able to do that in the same hometown where I was a little embarrassed maybe to say that. But I don't really love seeing myself on camera. It was never about that for me or anything like that. But it was really about just telling stories and just the excitement of it. I'm sure you feel this way. Every day's different.
Yes, that's what I like about this
I
profession.
did too. Yeah, I love that. You're never bored. But I really love the people, and I love telling the stories that really mattered and being able to give somebody a platform like you're doing for me to get on and just share about their lives and maybe make a small difference. You know, it's why I try to teach my students that, you know, what you produce can make a difference.
Now, what different roles did you hold at TV stations?
Well, I started out just like, everybody in master control. I mean, the
Wow.
lowest job on for the people that don't know, that's an all-night job. You keep the station, going, the commercials going, just trying to stay awake. And then I would often stay over for the morning news and help be an assistant there in the news. So I literally worked my way up, then did reporting and hosting. And then when we went to North Georgia, I hosted like a parent segment and did the news and some live events, just hosting. And then in Chattanooga, again, just kind of worked my way back. Even when I went back, in a small station, you do it all. So I worked with the sales department doing promos, and I had a live talk show that came on every morning at 10 o'clock, which was great. That was a perfect time because I could take the kids to school, still get them there, run in, and at times produce the show if I had to. I finally got a producer, but at first I produced and then hosted that show every morning at 10. Would take a break from that, quick lunch, and then work with the sales department shooting promos and commercials all through Chattanooga.
I want to start back with master control. You say starting at the bottom. Sometimes I feel like being an MMJ, it's starting at the bottom because we're like a one-woman band and one-man band. But I really don't know what all goes into master control, even though I work at a TV station. Yeah. I even told Aaron a few weeks ago, I'm like, they just watch TV all day. But I know it's more than that.
It's so much pressure. Yeah, it is, because you are, the commercials are what, when in a small station especially, it's all about revenue and getting those commercials. And if you were to miss a spot, you got to make good on it. And so I learned about that. But, looking back, I worked there. In fact, I even worked in the traffic department, which is dealing a lot with commercials and making those commercials good if they didn't air at the right time after people spend, lots of money on that. But looking back, it gave me such appreciation for my staff. Like even when I had my morning show, and I would do a lot to those guys because they would be working, sometimes from the 3 a.m., early morning news. And then I would come in and be like, we've got Dollywood today coming in and, the food and the zoo. And so I would do a lot to them. I put a lot on them at times because I wanted it to be a good show. But, I think it gave me such an appreciation for all of them. I always had a great relationship with everybody because I knew that person running prompter was just, and camera was just as important as my role. And I kind of tried to treat everybody like that because, I had done it and I knew how important those people were. So I'm really thankful for that, actually.
At what point in your TV career did you start having children? Was it when you were in master control or afterwards?
Yes, so I had Rit in Chattanooga, and then I did a step away for a few years. So I had, the boys are 2 years apart. So when they were little, I did not. But then I guess Brock was little. Yeah, it was before my daughter because I was actually pregnant. I did that whole thing where you're anchoring pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I did that experience. So finally got back into it then when they were little. Yeah, okay. But it was such a great experience. Looking back even on that, they had so many good experiences. I mean, one time Dollywood opened up just for our family to come in and shoot, and the kids got that experience. And I think it helped my daughter a lot, just what she speaks very well. And occasionally I can get her to anchor for our school newscast, and
nice.
She's comfortable because she's done it since she was little. She was shooting commercials there in Pigeon Forge a lot, and it was those opportunities. I mean, how many kids can say that? It was pretty neat.
No, that's awesome.
And it was a good experience for them. It helped them. Hopefully, it helped them with confidence in speaking and meeting new people because we've had to do that a lot. So it was really neat.
How did you make the transition from in front of the camera to the classroom?
Yeah, that was a little interesting. I think as you get older, you're like, okay, and it is, how exhausting TV, nobody has any idea how much goes into it. Yeah, it's so much, and especially in a smaller station, like you said, you do everything. Often, you fill in. So I think I was tired. But when we moved to Stevens County, there really wasn't any television that was close by. I think Greenville was the closest market, and that would be a really long drive, from where we were living, Greenville, South Carolina, or Atlanta. And so, I thought, I just kind of prayed about it, and it was a really difficult time looking back for me because I stepped away from kind of, I didn't do hard news. My show was the one that everybody wanted to come on, I think. They seemed to really enjoy it, and you step away from a place where you were real well known to another rural area. It was hard, a small community. But one day the principal came up to me at the high school and said, hey, we want to start this pathway, for audio video. Would you be interested? And at first I thought, well, no, not really. But, I love a challenge, and, getting to build that program and getting my students involved. And we were getting equipment in, and we got some grants through the state, and just watching them and getting to share that passion, with them of what I did and see them love it. It was really neat. It far exceeded any expectations that I've ever had, and helping them enter contests and seeing them win and be so proud of it. It's just, it was amazing. It really was.
What are the pros and cons at working with your husband at the same school?
Yeah, there's not a lot of cons. I'm going to be
Nice.
honest. There's really not. I don't see him a lot, and so at least during the season, he'll come to my room at lunchtime at least, to get his lunch, and we can talk a little bit. And I actually enjoy it, and I think that I have such appreciation for what he does even more by being there, because I've seen him on the field. I knew that was hard, but when you're there every day, seeing him interact and holding those boys accountable in the classroom, because that's super important, to him as well. And he does a good job, I feel like, about making relationships with the teachers, and letting them know, hey, I'm here, if you need me. And they do, they will. If they have one, that sometimes they'll call him before they do, the admin, if there's a situation they might need some help with. So that's been so neat. And so I've really enjoyed, working there with them. And, when I was in the high school, there too, for a while, I had my boys there. So I would have my boys and my husband and then my daughter, and I have her now. And so it's really kind of neat. It is. I've never taught any of my children in my classroom, but they definitely come to me throughout the day. So that's been pretty neat.
My mom steered away from that as well. She was an educator, but she wouldn't even let us go to the same school that she was at.
I understand that.
So I totally get it. I want to have just one more question for you. What stood out to me most about you is your faith. I am absolutely in awe of your faith. You seem so strong in your faith. I aspire to be at your level someday. Yeah. But for people who, it's sometimes hard to just wait on God's will, wait on his timing, what advice would you give them to just, what he has is better than what we could ever think?
Yep, to wait, to hold. It's so
hard.
Is that easy? No, it's not easy. But, I had a pastor's wife at our former church that told me that so many people, you get so tired of the waiting. You don't want to just hold on to see the goodness of God and just see his faithfulness through that. It gets hard and we just want to give up. We want to quit. And if you can just hold on, it's a daily. I don't have it all together. I mean, I constantly strive for that myself and to grow, but like I said, I'm old enough now that I can look back over my life and those moments, those seasons where we were losing or having it so hard or something going on, in our family. He was just so faithful. And I think if you can just hold on to those promises, and just keep your mind so much about, the positive thinking. I teach even that to my students, right? Like just, take hold of those thoughts, look and see the things you can be thankful for. Because if you look, we can be, in this country, there's always something we can, yes, there's problems, but there's always things we could be thankful for. And I think just, holding through that and waiting to see his faithfulness and his goodness, because he will. He'll be there.
The goodness of God. That touched me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You've
you
been
so
amazing.
much.
I know God is going to continue to order your steps and bless you and your family.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Y'all was at me tearing up.
I know, you got me doing that. I thought, oh no.